Good evening and welcome to tonight's Tech Talk. My name's David and I'll be your host for this evening. And this is, I guess, a bit of a wrap-up session or a follow-up session, I guess you could call it, where we've had a few questions on the virtual Scout halls and the Leader and Committee Hub. And of course, in true Microsoft style, there have been a number of updates. So tonight is all about, I guess, introducing some of those updates to you and covering off some of the questions as well as some of the changes to the Leader and Committee Hub. Now, of course, if this is your first Microsoft Teams live event, hopefully you should see a screen, something similar to what you see now. Maybe not, my face is probably not as beautiful as the one that's on there, but for questions and answers, there's a little speech bubble in the top right-hand corner with a question mark. So if you do want to ask a question tonight, and you haven't used a Microsoft Teams live event, just locate that little question mark, click on that, and you will be able to ask us questions. Now, the questions are private, so if you're, a little bit shy and thinking, oh, look, I don't want everybody knowing what I'm asking, it's okay. It'll come through to our panelists this evening who will attempt to try and answer all the questions that come through. And if it's a really good one or a common question, we can publish them, but they're typically one-on-one. So tonight we have, as I said, my name's David, Assistant Chief Commissioner for Educational Purpose, and I have got the wonderful Jared standing by, who works at the Estate Office in the IT Systems role, and also Lewis is helping me as well this evening to go through a few things. So tonight's agenda, like I said, we've got some Microsoft Teams updates. So if you have been following this series from week one, there's definitely some great features in our Microsoft Teams, or we like to call them our virtual Scout halls, that you can use. And I'm pretty excited about it, especially the fact now that we can have 49 video feeds at once. So I don't know how crazy that would be with 49 youth members on the screen all competing for a bit of attention, but we'll show you how that works. And of course, the Leader and Committee Hub, we've had some changes in the security access that we think that is going to help you out immensely. And also a very common one, what do I do with multiple Office 365 accounts? And finally, tonight we're going to wrap up with what future Tech Talks might look like. And of course, what do you need help with? Doesn't just need to be Office 365. We're interested in helping you guys out as much as possible during these challenging and interesting times. Now, with Microsoft Teams, if you haven't seen the upgrades come through already, coming very soon as your client upgrades is 7x7 video. So you can see it there, 49 lovely Brady Bunch faces smiling on the screen. So for a lot of people that I've spoken to and have put forward, look, we like using, other products like Zoom because we can fit more video on the screen. Now, Microsoft Teams, the free product that Scouts New South Wales is issuing to everybody, gives you the ability to have 7x7 video, and we'll show you how that works in Together mode and the new meeting experience. Coming very soon also is breakout rooms, so that's really handy when trying to run a live event. And we can also now have up to 300 people in a meeting. New class insight dashboards. There's also an educator-only meeting start and finish, and we'll show you how to finish a meeting as opposed to leave a meeting. And also, from Jared's perspective, there's new policies that are being rolled out. So, unattended meetings and all of those sorts of things. So that's really exciting. It's good to see that Microsoft is investing in this product. And during these, difficult times, all that's meaning is that there's more features and meeting online is going to be obviously easier. So that sounds all good, but the most important one is it's really easy to change your background now. So when you click click on the three dots or the three dots and change your background. You used to have to go and sort of navigate through to try and put in your background and upload a custom image. Now Microsoft have made that really easy for you. So when you click on the background effects, you can see there, if you want to put in your own custom picture, just click on the add new, and then you're able to put a picture in. Now, my recommendation to you is that with the pictures that you upload, just remember that your video, you'll be front and center, and you do want a nice high resolution picture there as well. So just make sure that it's a good quality picture, and that the center of the picture isn't too distracting, and that way you'll be looking pretty sharp in your up and coming Scout meetings online. Now, we've talked about the new meeting experience, and I have spoken about Together Mode. Now, Microsoft have introduced this new feature, and we'll show you how to turn this on. And what it enables you to do, if you've got more than 5 people in a meeting, instead of looking in the Brady Bunch format, it actually puts you in a lecture theatre. So you can see there that, with 49 people, it puts you in the little chairs, and it looks like you're all meeting in the same place. So I think that's a pretty cool feature, really handy in education and those sorts of things to try and give you that, togetherness or, experience that you're all in the same location. Now, we've covered off some pretty high-level topics all the way through, and I know that for some of you out there, you're just really keen to learn more about Microsoft Teams and getting the most out of it. And we're happy to run these sessions, but if you're the kind of person that wants to go off and do a little bit of your own research and maybe self-paced education, I highly recommend jumping on YouTube and looking up Kevin. Now, Kevin was, up until a few weeks ago, an actual Microsoft employee. So he discloses that in his videos that he's posted on YouTube. They're usually only about 10 minutes long, and they just cover off a specific topic. So, find that really, really handy. And what we've done tonight is he's actually produced a really good video on how to turn on the new meeting experience and using Together Mode and a few of those new features that I think when meeting in the virtual Scout groups or Scout halls, that as leaders, you will find really, really handy. So let's have a look at what Kevin has to say about turning on the new meeting experience and using Together Mode and some of those features.
I have Microsoft Teams open. Today I'm using the desktop client, and this is where I'm going to show you the latest and greatest new functionality. Now, first off, how do you turn on the latest and greatest features in Microsoft Teams? Well, what we're going to do is when you're in Teams, let's go up to the top right-hand corner, and under the people profile view here right now, I just see KS. I'm going to click on this, and then we're going to go down the list to settings. Click on settings, and this will open up the settings pane. And within the general view of settings, right towards the bottom of the initial view, you'll see a checkbox that says turn on new meeting experience. New meetings and calls will open in separate windows. Now that's just one of the new features that we're going to get, and then it requires restarting Teams. Now I've already checked this box, I've already restarted Teams, but if you haven't done that, feel free to go ahead and do it. If you don't have this checkbox yet, it may mean that you're on an older version of Teams and you're going to have to wait to get the latest and greatest version. However, if this is an option, go ahead and check it, and then you could follow along with this tutorial. Now, I want to demonstrate what some of the new functionality is, so why don't we just jump right into it. And on my calendar, I have one meeting coming up tomorrow. I'm going to go ahead and click into this meeting. And so here I see all the standard meeting details, and let's go ahead and join the meeting. Now, one of the things, I don't know if you noticed this, but in the past, anytime you joined a meeting, it would join within the Teams window. Here I have an example of the old version of Teams where it joined in the same window. Now though, within Microsoft Teams, I get a separate window for the meeting. So let's go ahead and join. The nice thing about this is when I join the meeting now, let's say I want to multitask in Teams. So maybe I want to click into my chat view, maybe I want to click into the Teams view. while a meeting is ongoing. Because Teams now opens in a separate window, I can multitask more easily. So that's a pretty nice new feature that recently came out. Now, I don't know if you noticed this, but in the past when you wanted to click on the different meeting controls, so for instance, you want to see the participant view, you want to see the chat view, you want to raise your hand, you'd have to hover your mouse over this area with all the meeting attendees, and you'd get an overlay that appears here with all of the different controls. Now what Teams has done is, rather than having an overlay up here in the top right-hand corner, I now have all the different controls docked for easier access. Now, I always found it somewhat annoying to have to hover to get the controls to appear, and then it would sit over the content. But the nice thing now is this doesn't interfere with the content. I don't have to hover my mouse to get all these different controls. It's much more easily accessible. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is, you see here in this meeting, I'm going to click on Show Participants. We currently have a number of people in this meeting. Yes, my YouTube business has been growing quite a bit. I've been able to bring on some extra hands. Let me go ahead and for a moment, I'm going to turn on my video here. So there you see me, and I'm going to ask, let's see if maybe Adele and Alex can turn on their video as well. Can you please turn it on, everyone? Whoa. There we see that Adele and Alex, it's actually a mirage. The Kevin YouTube channel is much smaller than you think, and it really is just me. This is a one-person operation. But what I've done is I'm just going to pretend to be Alex, I'm going to pretend to be Adele, and I'm really going to be Kevin. So here you see 3 different participants in the meeting right now. And what I want to show you is a new feature that's coming out called Together Mode. Now, right now you see that each video within this view is in its own separate box. So here you see kind of a separate box that appears. What I want to have happen is I want us to feel more together. So let's pull up Together Mode. Now, so what I'm going to do is let's click on the ellipses up here on top, and then I'm going to go down to the option that says Together Mode. And when I click on that, what this will do is this will pull us into one virtual location. So there I see myself 3 times. Now, obviously, this is just a unique example because I am 3 different people. But what you would see is you would have each person in their own seat within a large lecture hall. Now, this is a fairly small group. I only have 3 people with video on. But you can imagine, let's say you had 20 or 30 people in this with their video turned on. You'd see a large lecture hall with everyone sitting within it. And Microsoft has done a whole bunch of research where they found that you actually feel closer to other people if virtually you're sitting in one location versus in your own kind of small box off to the side. Right now, this view shows a lecture hall. In the future, Microsoft promises, and we actually just lost one of our attendees, but Microsoft promises that additional backgrounds for Together Mode will be coming out, and so you'll likely then be able to choose which background you want to apply. There's even an interesting one with the NBA that Microsoft's currently talking about, where it'll be on a basketball court. The NBA uses Microsoft Teams to stay in sync between the different teams that are part of the league. Well, that's Together Mode. I'm going to click on the ellipses menu again. There's also another option now called the large gallery. Now, it's a very simple idea. With the standard gallery, you could see up to 9 people. With the large gallery, they promise that you could see up to 49 people. Now, with the gallery, to be able to use the large gallery, you need at least 10 people in a meeting. And I don't have enough devices in my house to test this out, but trust me that if I click on large gallery, I'll then see a massive grid on my screen of up to 49 different people. So that'll typically take care of most meeting sizes. Let's say you're a teacher with 30 people in your class, that'll easily handle it with 49. I've turned off all the videos, and I want to show you some additional new functionality that has come out. When I click on the ellipses, I can now click on Show Meeting Notes. In the past, when I clicked on Show Meeting Notes, it would appear as a pane on the right-hand side of the meeting. Now, when I click on Meeting Notes, what this does is this drops me directly in Teams within a dedicated meeting notes view. I could access this before, during, or after the meeting, and so can all of my other attendees. So it's nice now that it's in a separate window, and I could separate the meeting activities from the note activities. And once again, it makes multitasking easier. The last thing that I want to show is focus mode, and this is a very nice one. And for this, I'm going to turn on the video again. Let's go ahead and share some content. And I have this beautiful basic template that I'm going to pull up here. So I have this PowerPoint slide. And here now you see the PowerPoint slide appear on the screen. Now, one thing that's difficult is I see all these people on the bottom, and if the videos were turned on, I also see the video down there, and that can be distracting from focusing on the content that appears here on the screen. So what I can do is, rather than being distracted, I could go ahead and turn on focus mode. To turn on focus mode, I'm going to click on the ellipses and I'm going to click on focus. And when I do that, you see that the box is down at the bottom with people's video and their names, and that disappears. So now my focus is entirely on the content here. Essentially, it turns off people's videos. And let's say I'm done with my presentation now. I can click on the ellipses again for more actions, click on focus again, and that'll now turn people's video back on. The last new feature that recently came out with Teams meetings, if I go to the top right-hand corner, as the organizer, I have the ability to leave the meeting. I've always been able to do that, but then other people might stick behind in the meeting. Now what I could do is there's a new drop-down over here, and I could choose to end the meeting. By ending the meeting, this will end the meeting for everyone, and everyone will be kicked out of the meeting. You can imagine for, let's say, an education scenario, and you're a teacher and you don't want your students hanging out afterwards and continuing on with different private conversations. Instead, you can end the meeting for all, and that will boot everyone out of the meeting. All right.
Alrighty, so as you can see there's some great new features that have come out in Microsoft Teams. I really like the fact that we can have up to 49 people now on the screen, and the fact that there is that together mode. So that's a really good thing, and you can see especially for larger groups in the virtual Scout halls, that will be a fantastic feature. So if you haven't checked that out yet, just make sure that you've turned the new meeting experience on. Also, the meeting notes is another great feature, breaking that out. So if you are having a Teams meeting, whether that's a unit council or something along those lines, then please, try that out. It's going to be a lot easier for you to take meeting notes. And as you can see there, when you are trying to present something, I've had it happen to me before where, you're presenting and, you've got the video happening. It's just distracting. So that focus mode would be really good. So one of the questions that we did have come up, and it's been quite a common one, is with something like Jamboree, on the horizon, people within groups are wanting to, I guess, not only meet with the youth members, but parents, etc. So what I thought would be a really good idea is I've got Lewis on standby, who's going to help us, I guess, show how we can add people who don't have an nsw.scouts.com.au email address. Now, this was covered off in week 2 of our Tech Talks, but Lewis, are you available?
Yep. Can you hear me, David?
Excellent, I can. So we've got our example Scout Hall here, and as a leader, I'm wanting to maybe run some information sessions because I've been excited about this new together mode and getting everybody some information sessions on the Jamboree. But obviously, most of my youth members and parents don't have an nsw.scouts.com.au email address. What do we do?
Yeah, so the first thing we have to do is we have to add them to our team. So to do that, we just go on the 3 little dots up the top here, and then we just go to the option for add members. This will then pop up a little dialog box, and we'll type in their email address. So because they're not at New South Wales Scouts, we'll go at harry@google.com, and Harry's the parent of Johnny. But what we need to do is we just need to make sure that we hit edit here to give them an actual name, because not everyone's email address is recognizable as themselves. So if we add in 50 or 60 parents, depending on the size of our group, it gets a little bit unwieldy to manage. And we can only do this right at the start.
Absolutely. And I remember in week 2 where most parents have picked out a fairly suitable email address, but when you're looking at maybe some of your older sections, say Scouts or Venturers, not picking on the venture section, but sometimes they do have some pretty interesting email addresses that have really nothing to do with their names. So, you know, this is the only opportunity. Is that right?
Yeah.
Lewis,
Yeah. So when you're adding them in,
yeah.
you've got to do it right at the start. Otherwise,
Excellent.
you'll be stuck with Stargirl 25 and Superman 30
Yep.
in your Scout group, and you'll have no idea who they are.
Absolutely. So that's really important. So that question has come up a couple of times, and it's a really good use, especially during these times where we still do need to maintain, physical distancing. That if you do want to hold some larger meetings, information sessions about some events or activities that are coming up, Jamboree's been a classic example, then adding people outside of the organisation is really easy, and Lewis has just been able to show us how to do that. Now, Lewis, just going out on a limb here, I didn't really prepare you for this. Once we've added a new team, new guest to our group, can you show us maybe how to create a channel? Like I can see in our virtual Scout Hall, we've got, Joey's Cub Scouts Venturers, but for some reason they don't want to have the information for Jamboree in the Scout channel. They want to create a Jamboree channel. How do we create a new channel in our virtual Scout group?
Yeah, easy. Again, fairly straightforward. So we click on the 3 dots, then we go down to the add channel option. That'll then pop up our options, and we can just start pumping all the stuff in. So Jamboree, and what we want to do is go standard so that everyone can see it. And then down the bottom here, we also want to tick this box to automatically show this channel so that everyone can see it.
Excellent. And then that way you create your channel, and as we've covered off before, you can start putting things in like, your files, your posts, all of that information. And when you're creating a meeting, you can create the meeting in the channel and record it. So, you can look back on those sorts of things. So that's a really good use case of the virtual Scout halls that we've created in Microsoft Teams. And there isn't a limitation. So just being really clear, if it's not limited to at nsw.scouts.com.au email addresses, you can, you can add people outside of the organisation, as Lewis has demonstrated.
Yep.
Now, thanks very much for that, Lewis. Jared, I just want to throw to you for the moment. We've talked about the at nsw.scouts.com.au email address. If I'm a leader out there, and I'm now the minority, probably 30% of us left, who haven't actually started using my Scouts email address, what do I do?
G'day everyone. Look, if you're part of the 30%, we don't really have much to say, do we? No. Look, if you're part of the remaining 30%, it's time to get on board. You're missing out on a lot of fun, a lot of excitement, and a lot of communication. Look, I droned on a bit. You might have to repeat the question.
That's all right. So I'm a leader out there. I'm still using my personal email address. I've tuned into these tech talks. I want to get access to the leader and committee hub. I want to get access to my virtual Scout hall, and I'm probably, like you said, missing out on some pretty critical information. How do I activate my Scouts New South Wales email address?
Right. Well, we would have sent out about 3 or 4 rounds worth of activation emails starting all the way from December last year, and they would have gone out to your primary email that you normally get emails from Scouts from. So check your email, check your spam folder, check your deleted items. You'd be surprised at how many people are like, oh, I didn't get an email, but it's there. It's there.
Yeah,
it's 1,000,000% there. If not, if you can't find it, if you've deleted it, if it's gone, just shoot us an email at the help desk, and we'll resend it out to you, or reset it if we have to.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so that's great. So just how do I get in contact with the help desk again? There's a link on the website.
I'm pretty sure the numbers are 9481 1111 No. Yeah, there is an email address. If the best way to get through to us is to go through to the New South Wales Scouts email address and go through to the support or contact us for anything tech related will eventually come through to our thing. And I think there is an email address, but I keep forgetting it. So I'm being a great ambassador right now.
That's all right. No worries at all. So that's fine. Look, I believe that there is a form on the Scouts New South Wales website, and just to save us, I believe that the very last slide does have all of those help emails and links. So we won't put you on the spot there.
That just means I have to stay to the end to find out. Otherwise,
that's it. That's exactly what we've done. Very good, Jared. Now, I have had a really good question that's come up. And again, we did cover it off a few weeks ago, but I'm going to call on Lewis again just to help me out and just cover off. I guess, how do we add a calendar event to the agenda? So how do we add calendar events? So Lewis is just sharing his screen there madly.
You can see it. Excellent. Cool. So this question was around using Outlook Online to create a calendar event rather than Teams. So, we might have our big list of scouts and there's 40 scouts in the group. It takes a while to go through Teams and add them all individually. So we can add them via a distribution list if we use Outlook Online. So we just go to our new event option and it'll load. And we could just go to Scouts, and then when we go in via Tees, I don't have it. I do have a list. Joey's. So I can click on my little distribution list here, and then it'll add everyone on the distribution list. So rather than just adding everyone individually, there'll be a whole stack of leaders that sit under this, or just 2 in this case for that email list. But there's 2 there, so I don't have to add everyone individually. But then when I create the meeting, we just have to make sure that we make sure it's a Teams meeting, which is there on the online version. And then it pops in the little code down here. Oh, slow internet on this computer. And we'll hit send, and then it'll pop up in everyone's calendar. So yeah, that's how we do that one, David.
Excellent. No, it's really good. So one of the other things that we haven't got scheduled for tonight, but maybe if you don't know how to create a distribution list, we do want to sort of collate things that we can help you with. So send some of those requests in. Distribution lists are pretty easy, and I think our dear friend Kevin Online has even got a YouTube video on that as well. But distribution lists are really, really handy. I use them all the time at work because I deal with different teams and also in Scouts, and that way you just only have to pop in that one email address and away we go. So look, I did say in the agenda tonight that we have some very, very exciting updates, and I guess one of the updates that we had talked about was the Leader and Committee Hub. So, Jared, we've got a couple of different, I guess, security permission levels in the Leader and Committee Hub. And that was everything from, if I'm a leader, I've got access to, let's have a look. We'll bring up the security groups. That's probably a bit easier. So we've got confidential, group committee, and secure. Now, when we created the Leader and Committee Hub, it was basically if you had the right, Scout link attributes. So if I was a leader in the group or a member of the group committee in certain positions, so you can see there, chair, treasurer, secretary, you get access to the Leader and Committee Hub. Now, of course, not every group's the same. So there have been some updates, and what we've found is that more than just the chair, treasurer, and secretary need access to different things. Do you want to talk us through some of the changes that have happened in the last few weeks?
Yeah, so as you said, not every group is the same. Some groups will have a designated chairperson and treasurer and and every appointment under the sun. But there are some groups that may have an assistant cub leader which helps with the books, or a Joey leader that helps out in some committee function. The way that the access is set up, it all derives from your appointment in ScoutLink. So we consider the ScoutLink the master of all truth, and so if the right appointment is in there, that dictates everything: your New South Wales Scout email address, your access to the Leader and Committee Hub. Basically, every access is tied into your appointment. So if that appointment ever goes away, that access goes away as well. Now, we found that, again, not every group is going to have a treasurer, and not every group is going to have a secretary or a chairperson, and so sometimes there's no one in those groups, or sometimes those groups are empty that need documents put in there. And the way our automation is set up, we do need, we can't just add them into a group, because then there's no process to remove them, and that access becomes permanent, which is not a good idea. So basically, we've brought in 3 new appointments: Leader and Committee Hub, Secure, Committee, and Confidential, and they are given to an individual that requires access on request of the group leader. And that appointment is put into ScoutLink, and that will trigger the automatic access to come down the line, and the access will be there for as long as that appointment is there. And that appointment will generally also be tied to whatever adult appointment is in that group as well. So if you are no longer a leader within that group, both the leader appointment and also the Leader and Committee Hub appointment will come off, and so therefore the access as well.
Yeah, and I guess that's a really, really important piece there is that, from a compliance perspective, and one of the outcomes of the Royal Commission was, a directive that, organisations need to be able to cut off access if someone has moved on, or if a circumstance where they need to be suspended. So by storing confidential and documents that need to be secured in the Leader and Committee Hub, as Jared was saying, it all ties back to your ScoutLink access. So if that person moves on, etc., we can be, as an organisation, be sure that access to that secure and confidential information is no longer available. Because I can remember when I took on my role as State Commissioner for Venturers, I got this lovely box of, files and a USB, stick, and there was all sorts of stuff everywhere. And there was no real way of the organisation being able to track who had that information, 2, what that information was, and 3, where did it go? So
I also do want to point out as well that you may not see a lot of the work that goes into the background, but as David was mentioning, a lot of the intelligence and the logic built into the automation behind the scenes is for that very reason. So there's a continuity of roles, and also from a moment now that we have the system set up as it is, if you become a group leader tomorrow, the second that we put that appointment into ScoutLink, everything trickles down. All of a sudden, you get a group leader, a second group leader inbox in your 365 account. You get access to certain areas that weren't available before, and you become owners of certain teams and things like that. And all of that ownership is inherited based on your appointment there, and that'll all be automated rather than having to set up. Imagine if we had to set up 16 accounts for every single time somebody became a section leader for first whoop whoop.
Well, there's only 450 odd groups in New South Wales, Jared, so you got plenty of spare time, right?
Yeah, heaps. And anyone that's ever got a reply from me, my first 2 lines are, I apologise for the delay.
No worries, all good. So, look, I think that's really exciting. So, again, going back to the Jamboree example, you might want to keep a spreadsheet of fundraising but that particular role may not be part of the treasurer's job. So, you know, a leader or a parent may be managing, you know, the Bunnings barbecues and all of those sorts of things, and tracking what funds are being raised for the youth members. So, Joe, can we just, I guess, rehash again? If, you know, I'm putting my hand up and would like access to the group committee, but I actually don't hold one of those appointments, how do I make that happen so I can get access to the relevant area again?
Okay, so the access is fairly straightforward. We'll need 100 points of ID, 14 forms filled out. We'll need an A1 and a Y1 done in mirror triplicate, so it can't be... Yeah, no, it's actually quite easy. If you want access to a specific area and you ask us, we're going to say no. But if the request comes from your leader who has that same access, then that's fine. That way we prevent someone from just saying, yeah, g'day, I need to be part of confidential first North Sydney. So we do need either a forwarded, you know, confirmation from a group leader or a section leader in that regard.
Yeah. I was just about to say, Jared, I think you've watched The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the Vogons in triplicate. But so really, all you need to do is, you know, either get someone who's got that same the level of access that you're requiring to make that request on your behalf, or get the group leader to do that, and contact the help desk. So that's nice and easy.
I've also been reminded to remind everyone that we are human, and we are trying to respond to everyone as quickly as possible, and we are bringing in some service levels or some times where we will be, you know, required to respond in a certain amount of time, and we're trying to get to those levels, and we'll get there.
Yeah, no worries. All very good. So hopefully that answers some of your questions. And lets you know about the updated security and features of the Leader and Committee Hub. Let's have a look. So, what do I do with multiple Office 365 accounts? This is a fantastic one. So, back in week 2 of our Tech Talks, I basically said, and I got a lot of flack from this in the Q&A. I basically said you've just got to log out and log back in. It is what it is. Now, for those people that are a little bit more tech savvy and were jumping up and down and saying, no, you can do it multiple different ways. Absolutely, that is correct. But I guess at that time we just wanted to make it easy for everybody. So what can you do with multiple Office 365 accounts? For me, I work out of at least 3 Office 365 accounts at any one given time. It is a bit challenging and it is a bit tedious, but generally what I do is I have Teams and my primary web browser. So my primary web browser is the one where if I click on a link in my email or something like that, that's the web browser that comes up all the time. I have that one signed in to work all the time because that's what I do. I work, right? But for Scouts, and my primary web browser, just for if you're curious, is Google Chrome. So that just works. It's nice and easy. When I click on a document, I can edit it. I can get into my SharePoint. The experience with work is nice and easy. For Scouts, I actually have it signed into a different browser. So I have it signed into Microsoft Edge. So that is a different way. Now, if you remember, I'll just bring up Edge now. If you remember, you can actually get into portal.office.com and you can see here I'm signed in to my Scouts New South Wales account on Edge. So I can have work signed into Teams. and Scouts signed into my browser. Now, the other option, if you are daring, is incognito mode as well. So I can sign into multiple Teams accounts just by using my web browser and being able to do that at the same time. So that is a way around it. So just to recap on that again, my primary browser and the Teams application is signed into work for me personally, could be signed into Scouts for you. And then the web browser that I don't use, so in my case, I use Chrome all the time and I don't use Edge. I actually sign Edge into Scouts and I use Teams and Outlook in the Microsoft Edge web browser. So that's one way of managing it. The other way is, as you can see here, you've got some mobile devices, and your mobile device, I actually haven't got a picture of it, but in your mobile device, in the top top left-hand corner, you can actually switch between accounts now. So that's really easy to do as well. So it still isn't a seamless switch on the Teams app on your desktop. So you will still have to sort of sign in and sign out. But if you are wanting to run 2 Teams sessions and be signed into 2 accounts at the same time, my suggestion is open your secondary web browser and sign into your Scouts or work into that one, and vice versa. So that's one way of managing it. Jared, I think that's probably you've only got one Office 365 account, so you don't have to worry about it. But Lewis, how about you? I know you're in a sort of similar situation to me where work uses Teams and Scouts uses Teams. How do you
Did you just assume my 365 account?
Yes, I did.
I have 2, thank you very much.
Oh, well, there you go. So how do you manage it?
2 different browsers as well. I actually have 2 different instances of Outlook as well. It's probably a little bit too much for this talk. And and thank you for that tip on incognito mode. I thought it was for something else.
Good on you. So there's a couple of ways of managing Office 365 accounts. And Lewis, how do you do it?
So I've got 4, maybe 5 different Office 365 accounts.
Oh, I
know, it's a nightmare, absolute nightmare. So in Chrome, I've actually created a different user account for each one, and they've all got their own little avatar, and then I know which avatar is signed into which Office 365 account, and then Teams is just signed into whatever I'm working on at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully for those viewers out there that maybe not so tech savvy have got maybe 2 Office 365 accounts, because 5 just sounds like an absolute nightmare. So you can manage it easily. Microsoft is getting better, especially on iPads and mobile devices, switching between accounts. But there's a couple of tips, I guess, on how to potentially manage multiple Office 365 accounts for you. Now, we all, being Scouts, we all love badges. So if you are inclined of wanting a digital badge, if you've been following this Tech Talk series since week 1, we do have a little Office 365 initiated badge, and that will be available for download off the Zendesk or website. So that's pretty cool. And we do want your feedback. So I will just quickly go through some of the questions that haven't been published or replied to. But send us your feedback through the Q&As or the email address and the avenues of support, because this has been a fairly well-received platform we've just covered really the virtual Scout groups and virtual Scout halls rather, and the leader and committee hubs. But there are plenty of other topics out there. So for those people or those groups that are already on the current youth program, so of transition off old, you'll probably recognise myself and Lewis's voice on the terrain talks, but we want to know how we can help you in these challenging times. around digital platforms and just the tools that you're using. Send us your feedback. We can run more sessions. That's what it's all about, helping each other in these challenging times, and why not? So from our Q&A or questions and answers, I can see a few in there, and I'm just going to have to probably pause because unlike my computer, I can't multitask that well. But help me out here, guys. Has there been some good questions that we may want to sort of do a bit of a deeper dive or just discuss and talk about?
Yeah, so we've got one around Leader and Committee Hub, and this is probably a question for you, Jared. Can we share or give someone an appointment that doesn't have a New South Wales email address?
Short answer, no. The Leader in the Committee Hub is basically our secure spot. It's for people that I guess understand the privacy and nature of the 365 environment, that have gone through the steps, that understand how it's award based and appointment based. So that's I guess that's the only caveat to joining the Leader and Committee Hub. If you want access to it, there are steps that need to be taken. There's only so far you can get by on a Gmail account. That's all I'm going to say.
So if I was a parent and I'm not a leader or anything like that, Lewis, I guess I can fill out the forms to be a parent helper. Is that right?
Yeah. So that'd be the way to do it.
And then once I'm a parent helper, can I get a nsw.scouts.com.au email address? Should be able to, because I'm now in ScoutLink.
Jared?
Sorry, I thought Lewis was going to answer that.
I'll leave that one to you.
I'm sorry. Yes. So look, all adult members are allowed to have a New South Wales Scouts account. If their specific appointment doesn't create one automatically, we can create them. We can set one up, or set up an Office 365 appointment only as well.
Which is
request. Look, if you're showing initiative and you want to get on board, who am I to say no?
Exactly. So all you got to do is just fill out the forms to be a parent helper. So that way, we've got the details, we've done the checks, and then we can issue with at nsw.scouts.com.au email address and give you the appropriate level of access in the Leader and Committee Hub. So that's a fairly straightforward process to be able to gain access to that information. So that's a really good question, and we had to work through that one. But have we got anything else? Anything else there?
Oh, just another little add-on to.
Oh, you've gone. Your microphone's died there, mate.
Oh, look. Sorry.
That's all right.
I got excited and tapped my keyboard. No, anyone that does want to continue on and become an adult helper will have to obviously still meet all the requirements. If there are any training elements, or there are any requirements for that specific appointment, they'll still need to be met as well, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Are we able to confirm the youth members? So I'm just reading, there's so many questions coming through. Lewis, is there anything that's sort of sticking out? I'm seeing some chatter about email addresses, youth members and parents. Can we summarise that one a little bit and maybe talk?
Quite a few questions around that one, David. So I guess one of the key topics is that once we add someone into Teams, there is no way to hide their email address, as we saw earlier. Yeah. So everyone will see it.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's right. So, yes, the email address is there, but if you think about the way Teams works and that environment, 2D leadership does still apply, and the way to maintain that is if you are using the channel chat, everybody can see it. So that's not too dissimilar to having a public conversation in the Scout Hall. And when you schedule meetings, All right, you start the meeting, everybody enters, and then you, like we saw with Kevin tonight, we actually end the meeting, not leave the meeting. And that way we can ensure that there are 2 leaders present in the actual meetings and video conferencing that we're doing ourselves. So it's not, look, you are not exposing yourself to any greater risk than having a contact list publicly available in the Scout Hall, or available to, I remember being, mentioned we had a contact list, and there was phone numbers and mobile phones and email addresses and all those sorts of things. The information was accessible. That's not any dissimilar here. But as far as 2D leadership is concerned, using the tools that Microsoft Teams gives us, so chatting in the channel chat, so it's very public, everybody can see it, and making sure that we're entering the meeting all at the same time and ending that meeting, not leading the meeting, but ending the meeting, will help reduce the risks of only having one leader or adult member in the meeting itself.
Yeah, and for that, so does that mean we don't have to send out our emails BCC to all the people, or is that still good practice to be BCCing all our youth members and their parents in?
Look, that's an interesting one. I've got the corporate hat on, and then I've also got the scouting hat on. As far as 2D leadership is concerned and being transparent, it's all about being transparent. Okay, so, I guess I'll take your guidance around using BCC, but for me, BCC is a blind carbon copy. So that person that you're communicating with doesn't actually know that that other person is being copied in. So when they hit reply, it's only going to be back to the person that sends it. So you may have transparency and 2D leadership going out, but the reply back, it's a bit questionable. So my personal preference, unless you're going to jump in and...
So I was going to say the question, we've got 2 questioners. Theirs was more around information privacy and publishing everyone's email address to the whole group, more than child safety. So if you are worried about that, if it was more of a distribution email, so Scouts is coming up tonight, here's the things you need without warranting a reply, that's probably something that I'd be BCCing rather than a patrol-based activity where we might need everyone in the patrol to know what's going on at all times.
Yeah, look, I remember speaking to one of our leaders in scouting who has a legal background, and one of the things there is that you're handing over your information, being an email address, to the group for the purposes of a communication. It's reasonable to expect that will be used within that forum. Where it's taken out of context or it's been solicited in other means, that's where you start becoming into the territory of not being, kosher or issues with privacy. But it would be my expectation that within a group that those emails are used appropriately for the purposes that they were being handed over for. There's no issues with privacy there.
Excellent, thanks, David.
That's all right. Have we got any more questions around that are coming up? I'm seeing them sort of popping up every now and then, so it's a bit hard to keep the screen and smile and read it at the same time.
So we've had one question that's popped up around one-on-one chats, and I guess this goes back to that 2D leadership. From my understanding, Jared, this is probably one for you. Someone who's added as a guest can't participate in chats. Is that correct?
You've put me on the spot here. I'm pretty sure that they can.
So
you can initiate. I'm pretty sure that they can't initiate one, but I'm almost positive that a chat can still happen with guests of a team.
Yeah, look, I think there's a couple of elements to that. So I can see the question here. One-on-one chats are still possible between youth members and parents who haven't done the Scout training. One-on-one chats are possible between youth and youth. Cyberbullying. How do we manage that? So again, as far as guests and guests are concerned, guest to guest shouldn't be able to initiate a chat. There's a technical limitation, and for those people that have got an @nsw.scouts.com.au email address, they will be able to initiate chats and meetings and have the full functionality of Teams. I bring it back to the tools that were available before the virtual Scout Hall. We live in the world of social media. We live in the world of mobile phones. If you've got a contact list, or if you've got a Facebook group, those one-on-one chats were able to happen anyway. Does that make sense? So with Microsoft Teams, at least we can monitor it. At least we can see that it, is happening. In the sense that, if someone's, chatting, or if someone's got an @nsw.scouts.com.au email address and they're initiating a chat, it's logged. There are always methods of communication that will allow one-on-one. So the way that we manage that as an organisation is through training and education. So that's training and educating our leaders, our parents, and our youth members. So it happens all the time, especially in the older sections on the social media platforms, where you may have a youth member who approaches you via social media because they're comfortable with it and start a conversation or asking questions. So through your training, you should try and either invite another leader or adult member into that chat, or politely shut that chat down and move it into a group chat environment. And that's what we're recommending there. So in answering that question, in some scenarios, it is possible, especially if one of those members has an @nsw.scouts.com.au email address. But keeping it in perspective, it was always possible, through Facebook groups and other social media avenues, contact lists, mobile phones, email addresses, etc., etc. The good thing is, like I said, on the Teams platform, everything is recorded and has an audit trail.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Dave.
That's all right.
And we've just got Jared checking some stuff in the background for some of our other questions. So if you do have any more questions, keep pumping them through. Where'd they go?
I've just gotten a really funny question here. I've forgotten how to get my Bling badge. How do I download it? So we will make that available to online a little bit later on. So it's not available just yet, but with our support avenues, we will make that available to download. I thought that was kind of cool, calling it our Bling badge. We've got another question here. What's the best way to handle parents and youth starting their Teams meeting prior to myself and other leaders being present? I don't join until exactly the start time, and it's always been started by a parent or youth member. I can always end rather than leaving the meeting. Now, so that is a really good one. Now it's a bit hard for me to do demonstrations whilst we're doing a live event, but just let me see if I can do it. And if I do drop off, I do apologise. So
you'll drop off, Dave.
Let's try this. I may have done enough sacrifices today. Look, so here we go. So this is a test. Just bear with me for a minute. Test, and I'm going to. It doesn't really matter who's in here. Let's go send, and there we go. So if we go into here, And we go into,
I think it's the 3 dots.
yeah, there we go. Meeting options. And we're signed into, oh, hang on. This is what I was talking about. The primary. This is what I was about to say. This is what I was talking about. The primary browser. So I'm just going to take that out because we shouldn't be seeing that. Next. Sign in. And sign in. Sorry, guys. And it's going to ask me to stay signed in.
Wish one of us knew how to juggle, then we could have just.
That's all right. No, it's all right. Let's have a look. Let's try that again. Meeting options. In your meeting options, you can actually, no, it's not going to let me in, unfortunately. In the meeting options, there is the ability to essentially allow only you to start it. So I'll try and bring that up, or we'll have an FAQ on the Zendesk to bring that up a little bit later on, or it could be another topic that we cover in another Tech Talk. You got a question there, Lewis?
Just scrolling, trying to find something.
That's okay.
There's so many. So many. We had a question earlier on around the high-res backgrounds from New South Wales.
Yes.
Do you happen to have the link there, where to find them on your
So that's that is the Scouts backgrounds that we've got. Is that right?
Yes.
Excellent. All right. So they, I think, Mel, are you still on the line, Mel? Are they available to download via the Zendesk or something from memory?
I don't believe they are at the moment, but I have actually requested that comms and marketing make them available on the Office 365 page on the website.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll get that up there shortly when this Tech Talk webinar also becomes available on that page.
Yep.
Excellent.
I found them on the Zendesk as well, Mel, and they are hiding, so we'll move them to a much easier place on the website.
No worries, that's great.
So, yep.
All right, so here's one I prepared earlier. These are the Teams meeting options. So we're just talking about bypassing the lobby and also who can present. So just have a look in there and make those changes. I think if you've still got, I think from memory, if you change, there's the drop down there that you can only do it people in the organisation. Some of your guests can still open it, but then if you change it to who can present and then select it to yourself, you've got greater control over the meeting as well. So just play around with those settings, and that hopefully can help you with that tricky one of people meeting, youth members meeting or parents meeting before the leaders are ready to jump into the meeting. So that's just a handy one there for you as well. Okay, guys, I think we're getting close to the end of this. Is there any more questions before we wrap up tonight? Doesn't look like it. All right, so what we'll do is we'll leave the Q&A open for a few more minutes. Otherwise, if you do have a burning question that you wanted to ask, just shoot it through to that email address, Jared, is helpdesk@nsw.scouts.com.au.
Actually, I think it's recently changed. It's david.jacobs@newsouthwales.
I'm going to put one of those redirects on. Or if you just want to jump onto the website, there's the website address there as well. So thank you very much. Like I said, we do want to hear from you, so give us your feedback. Mel, are we sending out a post-event survey like we have in the past?
Yes, we are. That should be arriving in people's mailbox within the next half an hour to an hour.
Excellent. So thank you so much for investing your time with us tonight for the last hour and a bit. We do really appreciate the fact that you're hanging in there in these challenging times and wanting to learn more. So that's really encouraging. Hopefully you've got something out of tonight's session with the new features of Microsoft Teams and the new security updates to the Leader and Committee Hub. Let us know what you want to cover off in any future potential webinars. And the concept is that we might be using this platform in a monthly or bi-monthly fashion for updates across our state. So thanks so much, and happy scouting.